Laveo.
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everybody out there. Coming at you late in the evening after watching a riveting 2 hours. I should say it's more like an hour with a lot of commercials.
Yeah, so many commercials.
Of the new History Channel documentary, Grant. So we've been spending the last couple of hours watching the documentary. I was live tweeting for us here at Penn Civil War, as well as for my day job / night job at the National Museum of Civil War Medicine. My name is Jake Wynn. I'm one of the contributors for Pennsylvania in the Civil War. I am joined tonight by a great cast of characters here, including the star of the show himself, Avery Lentz. Avery, you're on the big screen, sort of, today.
Sort of, yeah.
That's what size TV you have.
As much as any of us have been.
I wouldn't say I was the star of it, but I will say that it was definitely surreal seeing myself with all those other talking heads getting interwoven in and out of there. I was in it a lot more than I thought it was going to be tonight. So yeah, it was wild. I was also going to say, it's like you have the entire cast of Battles and Banter podcast, all hosts on it. So this is like, this is an interview of Battles and Banter without even trying. I love it.
Full support for Avery.
The other two gentlemen here, Tony and Cody, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Go ahead. So Tony Brown, obviously you might have heard me before on Battles and Banter. I love all things Civil War, and currently working at State Museum, Pennsylvania, doing my part to spread as much as knowledge as I can out there, and hope you guys enjoy what you're hearing, and we'll continue doing as good a job as we can.
Yeah. And I'm Cody Aish, one of the contributors to Penn Civil War and co-host of Battles and Banter. My day job is at Seminary Ridge Museum in Gettysburg, and I also run the Facebook page, Cody Aish, writer and historian.
Excellent. So we have a blog post that I have been bad and not edited for Cody yet that we're going to be putting up that's relative to this whole Grant conversation that the country is now having, courtesy of the History Channel. So what we're going to do tonight, this is sort of an after party. Going to talk about the Grant documentary. It is late at night, so we're going to try to keep this short so we can all go to bed and do this again tomorrow. But we're going to talk a little bit about what we experienced tonight and kind of our perspectives on this new documentary that's out about Grant. And so I want to go over to Avery first, because you kind of have a unique perspective on this, having been in the documentary. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the documentary, how you got involved, and ultimately what your takeaway is after watching night one?
So it was really interesting how this has been a long time coming. I first got approached to be a part of this program back in 2018. I think it was September, maybe late August, that I got an email from Radical Media. They're the production company behind this. They're based out of New York City. And they reached out saying, hey, we've heard a lot about you. We've heard that you're one of the Rangers down at Fredericksburg in Spotsylvania. Would you be interested in coming on to be interviewed for an upcoming documentary on Ulysses S. Grant? So already I was like, wait, so it's about Grant, first of all, and you want me to talk about Grant, who just happens to be like one of my favorite historical figures. Like, that was wild. That was wild to be a part of. So I jumped at it. First went there in November of 2018, got interviewed, spent 4 hours talking about mainly the Battle of the Wilderness and Grant coming into the Overland campaign there. And what's crazy is that I just was just talking, and it was so surreal, but being invited to come to New York City, have a chance to visit the Grant Memorial and everything. It was really an amazing experience here. So I was really happy to be a part of it.
It was that much more exciting for us to see you, because it was, it adds a sense of humility, a sense of kind of personal touch to all of us that listen. Awesome to see you get a chance to speak on something like that, and completely enjoyable.
Yeah. Did you get Jake's message. I think someone's TV's playing.
But it's funny.
Yeah, I could see it pinging through that. That's where the noise was coming from.
Yeah. Did you get that?
I got it.
Were you able to hear me?
Cool.
Yeah, we could hear
Okay,
you. But
good.
you can keep going. I know you still have a little ways to go.
Oh no, I mean, I was just, mentioning, then I went back to do more footage. That was even more incredible, is they invited me back in April. No, that's a lie. In March of 2019 to do more footage. And that was when I got a chance to talk more about Grant's character and why I relate to him so much, why I like him so much, is the fact that he is a dude that is thrown a lot of curveballs in his life and yet overcomes these obstacles every single time, overcomes adversity in many different facets of his life, whether it was in the military or whether it was as a civilian. And, the whole fact that really at the root of it, he suffered from depression, he suffered from anxieties, and kept his cool and kept his professionalism going during the war. That to me was so inspiring reading about this. And to be a part of that documentary was just probably one of the biggest privileges of my life. I remember on the March visit last year, before I came back, we did stop off at the Grant Memorial there in New York City, which if you haven't been to Grant's resting place in Manhattan, please do go. It is so worth it. It is so surreal. And it was just a nice cap on this experience. And then from that, I've waited. I have waited for a year. I feel like pretty much I feel like Emperor Palpatine, Rise of Skywalker. It's like, Lord, have I waited, and I wasn't sure if this was still going to happen with the COVID pandemic going on. Like, I was like, is this going to be delayed? What's happening? And then I get an email a couple months ago saying, oh, by the way, this is coming up. You can start promoting it and everything. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening. And then, here we are tonight with this premiere, and it's incredible. I mean, people have been tweeting, texting, all kinds of stuff. So it's really cool to be a part of something so big. But I've completely blanked on the last part of your question, Jake. So what was that again?
Yeah, no, it was a long time ago now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, it is 11:15 at night. So no, just what was your takeaway?
Oh yeah, duh, yeah.
You had your experience of recording. Now what how did that all translate? Are you happy with night one?
I am very, very satisfied with night one. I know from the people that were commenting on social media, a lot of people had gripes with the actual scenes, like the depicted scenes and stuff. Uniforms don't match, the trenches are too complex, and just little things like that. It was kind of annoying, but I mean, annoying for me to read it. I didn't really have a problem with it in the show. I understand with the budgets, with everything they have, they can't do everything, attention to detail, perfectly. And even if they could, they're probably not going to. It's just the way that corporate media works. So, but just the sheer fact that we're watching a documentary on Grant that is covering some of the big points that have been at least addressed in the last 10 years of scholarship, whether that was with Brooks Simpson or Ronald White or Ron Chernow's book, the most recent one, which is what they based this documentary on. We're at least bringing to light those things, like, Grant not being an alcoholic, Grant not being a butcher. We're now addressing it. And I really did like the excessive relation of slavery to his life and how slavery definitely is the concrete cause of this conflict. And oh my God, the fact that they had William Jones in this documentary was awesome. I did not think they were going to really cover William Jones. I never thought I'd see it on TV. The fact that they did is probably one of the best things to come out of tonight. Overall, I'm very satisfied.
Excellent. So yeah. Tony, what are your takeaways from night one?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, pretty excited to just see some history, and to be able to watch History Channel on, I mean, it's like MTV bringing music videos back. I was excited with seeing George Washington. I'm excited certainly for this, even more so to kind of have one of our own be a part of it. And really, in the introduction part of this, be kind of that focal point, front and center. So really proud of Avery, proud of everything that he's done, but proud of kind of all of this, because this is important stuff for us to have out there. So I think a job well done by everybody. You can nitpick at some of the little things here and there, but I think overall, getting this story out and getting a legitimate view of all of it is very important. So I appreciated it. I enjoyed the majority of it was really well done.
Yep. So we do have some comments here. If you do have any comments, those of you who are watching, we have 28 of you so far. Thanks for being night owls with us.
Sure. Yeah.
We have Paul from Chambersburg watching. He asked about why does the map from 1861-62 have West Virginia, which is something that I was asking when I saw it. I have no idea why that's on there.
Premonition.
Yeah.
I feel like if I could play devil's advocate for that, I feel like they were just taking a modern U.S. map, not trying to make it an 1860s map, but just kind of showing you today's Americans in relation to where these battle lines were moving. So yeah, I mean, I said the same thing, but then I was like, maybe that's what they're going for. Maybe it's the fact that yes, this is a modern U.S. map today, and this is where these battle lines and like the shifting things, because that's what I really liked about it, is that it wasn't just red and blue, it was black in the areas of contention, and that was really cool. It's just I these little things like that for sure. Yeah, but
yeah,
maybe that's what they were going for.
The maps themselves look really good.
They're awesome.
And I think, other than some people had some other quibbles with things as well, maps wise, but I think they did a pretty good job of that, considering I kind of got the vibe of like American Battlefield Trust.
Yep.
Maps.
Yeah, right.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. But so Paul Lawson dropped in a comment for Avery saying, congratulations on being a History Channel star.
Thank you.
And then we have another one from Joe talking about that drunk bit, which actually I didn't see because my stream cut out. So I don't know how they did Grant in the 1850s with alcohol. So if you guys want to touch on that at all.
Yeah, Tony, if it's okay, I want to take lead on this, because I really, really loved that part. I think that's where I realized this was a home run for me, at least, because they did say before Grant started drinking, he became very depressed. He missed his family. And the fact that they call it melancholy. But either way, the fact that they're addressing mental health before going into the alcoholism issue, I really did enjoy that, because we so much, when you hear Grant is a drunk, you think of him as a partier who's just like being goofy and stumbling into things and just like, but in the reality of it, he is drinking because he's coping unhealthily, but still coping with his mental health. And at Fort Humboldt, you can look at any of the officers that were there, they were pretty damn miserable. And it was just really cool to see that they address that first before they go into it. And then really after that, oh my goodness, I can't remember the historian that initially just talked about it, but she was like, yeah, this is where this myth comes from. This is where it starts. It's from his Fort Humboldt days. And that's really important to note. It starts there, but that's really all we see of Grant actually physically drinking. There is no account that puts Grant being drunk during the war. And I really like that at Shiloh, they didn't even address it, because there used to be this, I'm going to say, a lost cause myth that Grant is surprised on April 6th because he's too busy drinking and he's not paying attention to his lines.
And
that's
in
absolutely.
The documentary, it looked like he was having a tea party.
Looks like he was having breakfast and smoking a cigar. And shout out to Civil War Humor on Twitter. They had the funniest. He had a really funny post where it's like, wow, you know how John Rawlings claimed he was there to keep Grant sober. And it's like, why doesn't he just swat that cigar out of his mouth in the morning? And I'm like, that would have been ballsy, but get this image of John Rawlings just like, no, not here, not at breakfast. But but yeah, I really did enjoy how they handled that. Tony, Cody, your thoughts on that?
I just had a comment on my stream here from Andrea Lee Pike. She said, so far, I think they're treating his alcoholism with dignity. And I think that's a good nuanced way of looking at it. Also, a shout out here from Caleb Kuzmierczak. He said, I was so excited to watch it. Congrats, Avery Lentz. You were great.
Thanks, Caleb.
And much of the same, but before we get on live here, I said kind of the same thing you did, Avery, to Cody. I'm glad that they addressed it in the fashion that they did. Didn't overplay it at all, and really kind of spoke some honesty to it. So yeah, I like that.
So Cody, overall thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo a lot of what's been said. I'm not a big material culture guy in terms of my knowledge base, so I can't speak a whole lot on, or really any on uniforms, things like that. I'm sure that there's plenty to nitpick there. I think that even in this era of kind of renewed history on History Channel, that's kind of a constant source of headache and heartache for a lot of folks. So I'll leave that for others to kind of digest and dig into. But just in terms of the content, I thought that there was a lot of really good stuff there. I really liked the, again, social concerns, slavery put right to the forefront.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan overall when documentaries do the kind of dramatic scenes intermixed with maps and such. I thought that the scenes in which we saw Grant in particular speak, his portrayal, I think was really well done. I like more the use of, especially now, these really super high resolution photographs that History uses. The maps, like we said, are a lot like American Battlefield Trust. I really like when maps are very fluid. The Trust does that. History did that with this, where it's not just these blocks. It has these kind of wispy effects to it. You can see movement. And I think that for a visual audience, as I think we've all really become, I think that's an extremely effective tool. So I think overall, I really like what I'm seeing. I also like the fact that I went into this not knowing, and Avery, Tony, and I talked about this the other day. If ever Alexander Hayes has a chance to be featured on the History Channel, a Grant documentary is probably
center.
We still have a chance. Maybe they'll give him a mention at the Wilderness. I don't know. Chernell doesn't mention him in the book, so there's probably a little chance of that. But he did get, the photograph in 1845 of Hayes and Grant was on screen without naming Hayes, of course. But I'll take that, even if Hayes doesn't get another mention. I was happy to see that they at least used that photograph. And just a sneak peek for anybody who reads the Penn Civil War blog, I'm going to be doing this 3-part series on the relationship between Grant and Hayes. And the first one, which I assume will maybe get out tomorrow, is on pre-Civil War. So Mexican War, West Point, this budding friendship between Alexander Hayes and Ulysses S. Grant, go a little bit behind those scenes. But nevertheless, overall, coolest thing, as we've all said, is seeing Avery on screen, seeing a good friend.
Guys,
and I think as well, the lines that were chosen of your footage, Avery, were really substantive. And I think that what they chose to quote from you, and really the whole selection of historians, but there's a lot of depth to it. I do really like when documentaries don't use kind of the main narrator plus the talking heads. I like when the narration is the are the experts. I really like that, and I think that that's a good aspect of this as well.
I really think tonight's big talking heads, my 2 favorites so far, Doug Dodds and Timothy B. Smith, coming out of gate. If you haven't read his Conquer or Perish book, I have it, and I will say I have not read it yet, but now I'm really excited to dive into that Shiloh book. But yeah, I think there's one of my lines where I don't know how to talk about this without like sounding egotistical or anything. But like one of my favorites is, I forget already, but I say like it's euphoric, and the way my eyes and hands move in that was like, oh, I look really cool.
That was
cool.
Interviews were just very, very lively. They translated very well.
I will tell you that was what I was most nervous about, is how am I going to translate from reality to screen, and hopefully not, because I get very self-conscious about my voice, about my speaking abilities, about my performance on camera or in front of people. So to see it, at least in my opinion, see it come through like that I'm really satisfied with that, and I really like.
And
how
you
they
can
spice
rest
everybody
assured
else in
that we'll give you plenty of memes with all those frozen images.
there. I know, right? Yeah. I'm so excited for those.
You didn't come off at all like the Ed Bars in the Civil War Ken Burns documentary where it looks like they tied him to a chair.
Yeah.
Right.
To keep him from jumping up and using his hands and everything. No, I thought you were great, Avery.
Yeah.
It's so cool to see. It's like, David Petraeus, Tom Coates, Avery Lentz. It's just like this is it's meant to be. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like history usually does at least one kind of strangely placed really big name, like Bill Clinton was in the Washington one, I believe. And I think at first that one for me in this documentary was David Petraeus, and then I started thinking about it, and he has reviews on the dust jacket of both Ronald C. White's American Ulysses and Ron Chernow's Grant. So
I didn't know.
And I know there's a story of Petraeus during the surge in Iraq, and in his duffel bag he kept one book, I think is the story, and I forget which one of Bruce Catton's it was. It might have been Grant Moves South or Grant Takes Command, but it was one in the Grant series, I believe, and really kind of used him as the blueprint of his military career. So that was kind of a cool.
That is really
cool person to see, in this one. I will say that two who we haven't seen, who I don't think were part of it at all, but just surprising for those who are familiar with Grant historiography, would be Ronald C. White and Brooke Simpson. So
so this brings to my part. I'm gonna kind of give in my 2 cents about things, and I was actually going to talk about Brooke Simpson, because he had a very, very long Twitter thread this evening before the episode came on, and kind of went through his concerns about this, and I'm sure that those concerns have not been allayed by the airing of this. I'm sure that they have only gotten worse. But the main thrust of that was that none of this is new, and that is, this isn't necessarily the kind of the cutting edge of scholarship that's out there on Grant. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fair criticism.
Yeah.
I really do. And that would be one of the things that I say. This isn't going into new territory.
No.
But that's okay. That's okay. It's this huge platform. And Brooke Simpson, who I respect and I think is great, and I love that Twitter thread. I think I liked almost every tweet in it because it was very insightful. I'm sorry.
It's late.
And he talked about this, and he made comparisons to the PBS American Experience Grant documentary.
It's always been phenomenal. All of the American Experience ones,
which is great. Yeah. And that has that more, PBS documentary. You think of those American Experiences, you're thinking of the best documentaries out there. But what those documentaries don't necessarily have is a huge mainstream audience.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
History Channel has that. They fill it with swamp loggers and ancient aliens,
Axemen,
other BS like that. But you can see them making this switch back to what originally gave them popularity, in which you start to see more of these historically. Like I think there was an advertisement for something
World War II. Yeah. I'm actually I got to watch that now too.
Right. So. It is and this is Kevin Levin throwing in his criticism, which is, well, we're covering all the white men, which is true in all of these, but I think it's getting us back to where the History Channel probably should have been.
Without a buff Rufus Dawes, it really was enjoyable.
To echo sorry, go ahead, Jake.
No, I was just gonna say I'm with Cody. I'm not much of a material culture guy, but I can see some of the issues with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always the concern with a historical documentary that tries to play into that live action scenes. I will say the actor, and I don't know his name, who plays Grant is great. I
like him a lot.
Sure.
Him. I would rather just see him and not see anybody else except Henry Halleck.
How'd you enjoy those meat sweats, everybody?
All we need. All we needed were the hemorrhoids.
I know.
Yeah, he wasn't as I think was in a text thread with Avery. Our friend Ryan Quint said, he wasn't ugly enough.
That's my only criticism. Not ugly.
Not
Yeah. But to echo you, Jake, on like Kevin Levin and Brooks Simpson's concerns, I agree. They are pretty valid concerns. And I had actually responded to Kevin saying, yeah, I totally agree. We do need more new documentaries on Fred Douglass and all these Black Americans and Hispanic Americans and Asian Americans and what have you. For sure, we need to include that culture. But I think just to kind of sum everything up in a big bow here, kind of addressing Brooks's concerns and Kevin's concerns, is that Grant on the History Channel here. It's been a while since we've had a Grant-centric program on such a commercial conglomerate like History Channel. You're absolutely right. This is mainstream. Like, people, yes, tune into PBS, but like everyone knows History Channel. History Channel, their marketing crushes PBS's. It's just simple as that. I mean, you have, basic cable, but whatever. But like this, to see a Grant special like this, getting the publicity that it's getting all the commercials and the screen time leading up to this, I think it was probably, for me personally, one of the more advertised history documentaries. Like, and it followed in the vein of the Washington documentary they did. So I mean, Grant, like, to have that, I agree with Brooks. These aren't new developments. They've been in the scholarship for the last 20 years, but now everybody can digest it real quickly in just 2 hours tonight, and they can continue to do that in the following nights to come. And we're getting this at such a crucial time where it seems that we can at least acknowledge, yes, this war was about slavery, and yes, Grant was on the right side of that war, and it needs to be addressed. Because I know, I think Brooks even had a big qualm with one of my lines from the very first teaser, and it's the line where I say, I know which one it is. I say there's this sense that he's been forgotten. And when I said that, I didn't mean that nobody knows who Ulysses S. Grant is. I think in the context of the popular romanticized Civil War culture that we have today, you're going to see Robert E. Lee before you see Ulysses S. Grant. You're going to see even William Tecumseh Sherman before you see Ulysses S. Grant. Grant was always just categorized as a butcher, as a drunk. And, if this is nothing new, then why do I still have people coming to me saying, oh yeah, he was the drunk, right? Or he was the butcher, right? Like there's still work to be done. And I think this documentary is going to help blow that out of the way in such good ways. So that's where I would say I'm playing devil's advocate. And I'm sure people are saying, oh, he's only just saying this because he's part of it and wants to really sing those praises. But I think that was why I was so into it, why I was so enthusiastic, because they said point blank, that was their point. They're trying to make Grant popular in the context of, we need to start looking at him and put him in the same box as Abraham Lincoln and others like them. So,
yeah,
cool.
It translated. So I was live tweeting both for Penn Civil War and for National Museum of Civil War Medicine. And just reading through the tweets, there was so much of that on the hashtag of people being introduced to Grant in a substantive way.
Substantial.
First time. Sorry, I can't speak.
I think either one works there.
Yeah,
substantial. Edward Stanton. I'm sorry.
It's really been an introduction to a lot of people to this detail about Grant that they never had before, that I think is going to be a great kind of stepping off point for them to go to Shiloh, to go to Fredericksburg, to go to City Point, and to experience that and walk in Grant's footsteps and understand who he was, what his motivations were, and why he was such a badass.
Yeah. Can I just mention and comment, and you guys can weigh in, like, the battle scenes I really enjoyed, because I did not think they were going to be as graphic. Right off the bat, the dude's in the tent getting popped, and then the dude getting shot in the eye, and like tomorrow there's that dude that's going to burn alive on camera. I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic in a really macabre way, because they're not holding punches. I'm like, this is visceral. I like visceral history because it destroys any romanticized notion. Like, this isn't the movie Gettysburg for sure. Like, this is
Thankfully.
raw and gritty.
Yeah.
This is just raw and gritty. And I'm like, that's what that fighting was like. It was raw and it was gritty. And I really like that they captured that. And then in the midst of all that, to have a wounded soldier look up and see Grant there saying, "You all right, son?" Like, it's really cool. Cody, what do you think of the guy they have playing Lincoln?
In the previews, he looks pretty good. Yeah.
Right.
And
he
in
sounds just like him. He sounds like Daniel Day-Lewis, I should say, like, which is cool.
And in the one trailer, there's a brief scene where Grant as president is shaking hands with Frederick Douglass. So I'm looking forward to that one and what I assume will be the last episode.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, gents, final thoughts. We just crossed over the half-hour mark, so going to start signing off here. Any final thoughts for this evening?
Certainly looking forward to what's to come in the next couple of nights here. Happy for where we're at with History Channel and moving forward. Hopefully we see some more of these, individual specific documentaries.
Yeah, absolutely. Cody?
I would say that, the two main closing points for me would be, I think that the next two episodes are where we might begin to see if they're going to do something new in terms of a big picture kind of interpretation of Grant. That might be where we see it. How do they treat the Overland Campaign, for instance, both as a cinematic experience, the visualization of seeing the wilderness in Spotsylvania, but as well of seeing how do they treat that mood, because that's one that both sides have tried to take hold of. The lost cause interpretation that Lee is the victor, the Grant and Lincoln view that they kept pushing, and that's their victory. And then in the third episode to see Grant as president, that's something that I think for a lot of people is so shrouded in mythology and in the bad kind of way, to see how that's treated and to see people's reactions to it, that Grant isn't just this corrupt politician, but that there's something much more there, especially on civil rights platforms. So those are the couple of things that I'm most looking forward to going forward here.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off you, Cody. I will say I'm very excited for Grant as president, because that's probably the least familiar area for me. I've read about it in all the biographies, but like, I can tell you about the Overland Campaign without picking up a book. His presidency, I'm going to have to do more digging and stuff. So I'm really, really curious and excited to see how they do that. On the same side of things, I'm very nervous about tomorrow, because I know a big part of my interviews was about the wilderness and the Overland Campaign. So talking about those fights, I will probably be, I would think I'm going to be prominently featured. I'm not going to hold out hope for anything. But also, like you, Cody, I hope that they give it, because I made it clear, I'm like, these were not Union defeats. They were strategic successes, and even in some cases, tactical successes. And we need to address that. So I really am curious to see how they address those big events going forward, and hope you all tune in, because I'm having a good time and we're having a good time, so I hope you are too.
If I might give a quick shameless plug, Jake, to our latest episode of Battles and Banter is on the Battle of the Wilderness, so this coincides really well in terms of timing. Just go to,
I did not plan that, by the way.
Podcast, yeah, exactly. Podcast platform of choice, and you'll find the Battles and Banter. There are 5 of us overall on there talking about the wilderness.
A real good time.
All right. Well, shameless plug, perfect timing for that, both in terms of when you drop the episode and, perfect topic. And I know that's one that I unfortunately missed out on, sadly.
Yeah, it's all good. We're going to have you back on the Spotsylvania Courthouse 3-parter we're planning. So
I'm all about the Spotsy, let me tell you.
I bet you were. Yeah, I know you are.
All right. So thank you everyone for watching. We've had a good, consistent audience tonight. We really appreciate your support. If you do like these videos, please like them. You can share them as well. That helps more people to see them. There's a subscribe button somewhere on this video's page. I believe it's up at the top. If you go and click there, you'll get notified when Penn Civil War is live. That can allow you to be notified when we do these videos. We will be back tomorrow evening to do this again after the next episode of the Grant documentary on the History Channel. We hope you'll tune in both to the documentary, which is very interesting, whether or not you enjoy the material culture failing or not. It is important to kind of stay tuned to what the narratives are about where popular history is going in regards to the Civil War. This is a good kind of case study for where Civil War history is kind of going in the popular culture. So we hope you'll tune in for the show. We hope you'll tune in for us again tomorrow night here, 11:05 on Penn Civil War Facebook page, as well as my Winning History page and Cody's writer and historian page. We hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great evening and stay safe, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.